With that, I will call our meeting to order this evening. I think we have most of us here. Are we waiting on anyone before I rush us through here? See Trustee Sartori and Trustee Sipcar. Should we wait just a few minutes? I see Trustee Sartori come in. Just waiting on Trustee Sipcar, it looks like. Has anyone heard from Trustee Sipcar if we have had any issues?
I'm just checking with her right now.
Thank you.
No response yet.
Okay, well, I will call us to order. She may be joining us later, or we will hear from her later. For now, I will call our meeting to order at 6:02. In attendance, we are just missing Trustee Sipcar, it looks like. The rest of us all trustees are in attendance virtually via Teams. So I'm looking for a mover to approve the agenda. I only see 4 people on the screen, so if we could use our chat tonight, just so I'm not missing anyone's hands. We could move approval of the agenda. Be moved by Trustee Hatfield.
I'll second that.
Thank you very much. Any discussion on approval of the agenda tonight?
Madam Chair, I'm not accessing the chat right now. There we go. I would move deferral of item L6 to the regular board meeting of May 18th to accommodate information sharing with the chair, vice chair, and a parliamentarian and myself.
Do we have, so that's a
motion to defer
L6
to a time certain. May 18th, regular board meeting.
May 18th. That's been seconded. Oh, I see Trustee Sipcar in the meeting. Wonderful. Any discussion on that amendment? So I'm seeing Trustee Hatfield. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. We were reminded by the chair of the board that this is the 3rd time, I guess it is, that this motion has been on the agenda. And so this would be the 3rd time that it's being deferred. And I want to say that I'm opposed to that. I think that if a trustee makes a motion, they should be prepared to go ahead with it. And I don't know what all this need is to speak with the chair, whoever else was listed, and a parliamentarian. That should all have been taken into consideration when the motion was made. And I think a little bit resentful of motions being made and trustees not prepared to move them forward. I think that trustees should have all their ducks in a row and not keep asking for a deferral. So I'm not going to support the motion to defer.
Thank you, Trustee Hatfield. Trustee Sartori, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I guess for similar reasons to Trustee Hatfield, I guess I'm not understanding why it needs to be deferred again, and this is with no disrespect to Trustee Burgess whatsoever. I'm a little confused, and I don't understand why we can't move forward one way or another. I'm not following why it would need to be deferred, and I guess why so much lead time is needed. I'm not sure if that's a a fair question on this motion, and if she can answer that.
I want to be careful that we're not getting into the details of the motion itself. And so I want to make sure that we're sticking to whether or not we're going to approve this amendment to the agenda.
Okay, so that's my question is if we can understand, if I can understand a little bit more the reasons for another deferral. Did you say this was the third deferral?
Yes.
Okay. If Trustee Burgess can answer that question, and again, no disrespect meant whatsoever.
Trustee Burgess? If you're muted, we can't see you, Trustee Burgess. Oh, I can see you, but can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
We can, yes, thank you.
My microphone is on. I haven't done anything. Okay. I've heard some allegations that I don't have my ducks in a row, perhaps, or that you might be confused, etc. The motion as it stands, if it comes forward, I'm happy to discuss it. It's just it would be much better for the chair and vice chair to understand an opinion that was privately sought by me, not the board, and shared. It's a professional opinion, and I would rather do that prior to the moderation of the discussion. That's been the case since early January. And that hasn't changed. And I was simply waiting for an opportunity to have the chair and the vice chair and myself have that discussion so that they know what the motion entails when it is going to be discussed. So it was for the edification of the board, not myself. I'm not delaying it for me. I'm well prepared. I've had the opinion in my hand since, January. So I would appreciate the board's support. And on May 21st, we're very ready to discuss it. And I think the chair and the vice chair would also be even more prepared. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Cook.
I was just going to say that I'm fine with us moving forward with it tonight. It has been deferred 3 times. I'm fine with that. And it's not just, I don't believe it's the chair and the vice chair that just need to hear. I think it's everybody. All trustees need to hear that. Whatever Trustee Burgess would like to share with us, I think everybody should be involved in that. So I won't be supporting a deferment. I would like to move forward with that tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Cook. Trustee Leclerc.
Yeah, so I guess my question is quite simple. If there was a opinion that you wish to share with that was needed to be shared with the chair and vice, I'm wondering why that couldn't have been shared by email in advance of this. I also agree with Trustee Cook that I think everybody should be aware of all the information that's available and should be full disclosure. So I don't support a deferral at this time.
Thank you. And Trustee Chin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I would like to support the motion to delay, because I know when it started, and it's because of the misunderstanding of the meaning of session, and it's especially in this circumstance, and a lot of change, a lot of things happen. I think it's quite serious topic, and I would like our group to have to be prepared, to be ready for this topic before rush to vote. I would like to support it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll I'll allow any kind of last minute discussion on this, and then we'll move forward with voting on the proposed amendment to defer. Go ahead, Trustee Olmsted.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, I also support a deferment. I don't see anything wrong with amending the agenda and deferring this evening simply to be more informed. I like to have all my ducks in a row before I vote on a motion, and I think that for the betterment of the board, we should all be more informed. So I do support this deferment, and I look forward to a very robust discussion about this. But I think, in all fairness, we should all be as prepared as possible, because I do know the discussion was very robust about this particular topic. And so just in light of that, I do support the deferment.
Thank you very much. Trustee Halberstadt, and then we'll move to the vote.
Yeah, I don't see why we can't debate this tonight. I think everybody knows, for the most part, what the issues are. And it seems that part of the board, I guess the chair and vice chair, would be privy to information that we don't have. So I don't see why we can't put that out on all out on the floor tonight. So I'll oppose the deferral.
Thank you very much. I'm going to close discussion on that, and we're going to vote on what's currently on the floor, which is an amendment to the approval of the agenda to take off L6. So I'm looking for all in approval of the amendment to defer L6. All in support of the deferral. 2, 3. So I'm calling one more time for anyone in support of the deferral. I currently see 3.
It's 4.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I'm not sure
Thank
if
you,
my
yes.
chat is working. I did put support. It's Trustee Olmsted.
Thank you. I see. Yes, I see yours.
Yep.
Thank you very much for that. So there's 4, and that does not pass. So that will remain on the agenda tonight, and we will discuss that this evening. Thank you very much to trustees. So looking for any other amendments to the agenda tonight. Any other amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, all in support of the agenda. Oh, pardon me. Yes, there is an addendum included. We will have a delegation this evening, which, let me scroll through here. That is at item J. So that'll be item J1. We have Patricia Poku Christian will be a delegation this evening. Thank you very much, Madame Leboeuf. So our agenda as amended. Can I get all in support of the agenda as amended this evening? All in support. I'm seeing 2 hands.
Support.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you much. Wonderful. If I'm seeing enough support, we can move forward with that amended agenda, and we will now convene into private session. Anyone who is watching currently this evening, we will come back and convene into public session here at 7 p.m. So you will watch, if you're watching this later, or if you're watching this now, you'll see a kind of brief pause. And when we come back into public session at 7 p.m., we will redo attendance just so we can be sure everyone is here again and continue our public session. So we will see you all at 7 p.m. and I will see trustees in our private session. Thank you.
Madam Chair, did someone move?
I will do attendance again, just so we are all aware at 7 p.m. We do have all of us all trustees in attendance this evening via Teams. We also do have two people joining us who are new to us this evening. We do have two new student trustees that will be joining us in their next year, and they will be helped by our current student trustees right now. So I'm going to introduce our new trustees. I don't believe they're joining us on the phone this evening, but I'm sure that they're watching, and so I want to introduce everyone to their names at least. For our city representative, we are welcoming Malik McCowie. Congratulations. And for our county representative, we're going to be welcoming Paige Hawkins. And so I'm sure we will see them in one form or another, digitally or in person, hopefully soon. With us this evening. And I will read to our land acknowledgement. So we acknowledge that we are on land and surrounded by water, originally inhabited by Indigenous peoples who have traveled this area since time immemorial. This territory is within the lands honored by the Wampum Treaty, agreements between the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Lenni, Lenape, and allied nations to peacefully share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. Specifically, we would like to acknowledge the presence of Three Fires Confederacy, the Ojibwe, the Odawa, the Potawatomi, and Huron, and the relations of country. Private session. Trustee Cook, do we have any actions of the board meeting private session?
No.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Trustee Cook. Approval of the minutes. I see it's been moved by Trustee Leclerc. Do we have a seconder on approval of the minutes from March 23rd? Seconded. It seems like people are having some internet issues today. We'll try to be as adjustable as we can. So I'm just looking for any discussion on the minutes of the board meeting for March 23rd.
I have a discussion, Madam Chair.
Is this business arising or a discussion about the minutes?
It's just about the minutes. I wanted to correct or change a motion that I voted for, or I voted against, which I misconstrued the motion, and I'd just like to reverse that I did support the motion to opt into the digital minutes or agendas.
Okay. Was that captured in the, are you just saying that there?
Yeah, it was, the motion was on page 4 near the bottom. It said it carried with the trustee Halberstadt opposed. And I thought it was the other way around, so I voted incorrectly to my intention.
So it was a recorded vote, and so we do have to keep the minutes as they were captured. We can't go back and change that. But I take your point that that you wanted to. You were confused about what the vote was, and I know we did go back through some amendments to that, so I can appreciate that, but we can't go back and change the minutes from what was actually captured and what was actually done.
Okay, well, I just
at that point, unfortunately, but thank you.
Maybe reflect in the minutes how I feel about that.
We can reflect in those minutes this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. So any other discussion on those minutes from March 23rd? Seeing none, looking for approval of those minutes.
Approve.
Is anyone opposed? Let's do it that way. I hate prejudicing that, but let's do it that way. Thank you very much. So seeing no opposition, we will approve those minutes. Thank you very much, trustees. Any business arising from those minutes? Any business arising in the minutes of March 23rd? Seeing none, thank you very much. So we will move along to presentations. We have our student trustee presentation this evening.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll begin. So April has been a month of gearing up for the events and projects that the 3 subcommittees of Student Senate have been planning. The Anti-Racism Subcommittee has rescheduled the Education Seminar for Wednesday, May 12th, and will feature guest speakers from the community and the school board on the topics of local Black history, the history of anti-Black racism, microaggressions, the moral minority myth, developing coping skills, a student perspective, and more. The subcommittee is looking forward to offering this event to students in grades 7 to 12. The Environmental Sustainability Subcommittee is working hard in anticipation of its conference coming up on Friday, April 30th. The conference will feature guest speaker Claire Sanders, climate change specialist from the Essex Region Conservation Authority, and the board's Energy and Environmental Officer, Ms. Kathleen Quenneville. The conference will also feature student speakers Anna Dawson and Jaina Alrafe, who are representatives of Fridays for Future Windsor Essex. The conference will lead into breakout rooms on the topics of environmental wellness and mental health, environmental racism, and student engagement. At the conference, the call for submissions to an environmental art exhibit will also be announced. Promotion for the event has gone out on the Senate's Instagram page, and we're looking forward to student participation in this event. The Mental Health Subcommittee is looking forward to hosting a board-wide Student Wellness Week to encourage and challenge students to take care of themselves in different facets of their lives. Each day will feature a different theme, which will be accompanied by a wellness challenge, journal prompts, related videos, and opportunity for interaction on social media. The subcommittee is also excited to be working with Ms. Polly, Dr. Crenwell, and Dr. Daggle to be hosting a mental health webinar in the month of May to inform and educate teenagers about the brain and mental processes. Student Senate enjoyed hearing from Mr. Maruzik and Ms. Rushello on the GECDSB's cannabis strategy and from Superintendent Canty on academic de-streaming in secondary schools. We thank them for taking the time to speak with us and appreciate their desire for Student Senate's input, interaction, and feedback on these topics. Arabella and I have also begun sharing monthly subcommittee reports on the Student of the Month on our Instagram page as we are looking forward monthly subcommittee reports and Student of the Month on our Instagram page as we are seeking to make our students aware of the action being taken on their behalf at the board level and to celebrate the outstanding accomplishments of the students in our board. We were excited to feature Autumn Owens, Student of the Month of March, and are looking forward to honoring our outstanding students going forward. Arabella and I are also thrilled to welcome the incoming student trustees for next year's term, and we have enjoyed working with them through Student Senate already. We are so appreciative of the support we've received from Director Kelly, senior administration, and trustees throughout our term, and we're very excited to keep the momentum going as we execute our projects and initiatives for the year. And now I'll pass it off to Student Trustee Suave for Student of the Month.
Thank you. The Student of the Month for April is Nicole Wirt, a grade 11 student at Kingsville District High School. Nicole is an avid athlete, a true role model, and an overall exemplary cavalier who exemplifies this month's theme of initiative. A gifted athlete, Nicole has been a member of Kingsville's basketball, volleyball, track and field, and soccer teams, as well as the rugby club. With her understanding of sports, she also volunteered at the 2019 and 2020 OSBA basketball and volleyball tournaments. While school sports are on hold this year, she took the initiative to create a trick shot video to engage in her sport in a different way. Nicole has participated in various clubs and groups, including Kingsville's Eco Club and We Group. She has been a huge help to Student Parliament as a grade 10 representative last year and is an enthusiastic supporter of Council's virtual events, showing her school spirit and inspiring her fellow students. Nicole often reaches out to her fellow classmates when they are struggling academically and runs study sessions. Nicole recently showed her support of the greater community by participating in Kingsville's Love Local Bingo to help support local businesses. She volunteers at her church and works at the Zare's Bakery. She truly takes initiative to be supportive of her school, her classmates, and her town. Through her actions, Nicole demonstrates that we can all contribute, even when things are tough. Congratulations, Nicole, on being selected as the April Student of the Month.
Thank you very much, and congratulations to Nicole. There's many things that I'm missing in our need to be virtual here, but chief among them is that we don't get to welcome our students of the month into our space and congratulate them appropriately. So congratulations to Nicole, and thank you to both Arabella and Isabel for that presentation. Do we have any questions from trustees for our student trustees this evening?
I do. It's Trustee Burgess.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, if I could, to our student trustees, just exactly that point. Normally, if we were meeting in face-to-face, we would see in person, be able to congratulate maybe, give some kudos via social media. I just want to make sure I got the name spelled right. So if you could spell, is it Nicole Worth, NicoleWeurth? Is that what I heard?
It's Nicole, and then her last name is Wuerch.
U-E. Say it again, sorry. W-U-E?
Uerch.
R-C-H, Worch. Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Is now joining.
Thank you very much. Any other questions for our student trustees this evening? Clarification on their presentation? Thank you very much. Appreciate that, and congratulations again to Nicole. As I mentioned, we may need a brief minute here. I did see someone come into the meeting here. I will just check with Madame LaBeouf to see. We are at delegations, and we are waiting to connect with our delegate this evening.
I'm just calling her now.
Thank you. This is usually where in class I would remind us all to get up and move our bodies and take a drink of water.
Unknown participant is now joining.
Is that Melissa?
She is now joined.
Thank you very much. So we do have a delegation this evening, Miss Patricia Poku-Christian, and she is speaking on budget consultation. So Patricia, you will have 10 minutes.
It's just horrible.
Okay, so can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can also hear someone else. So I'm wondering if everyone can make sure that they're muting their mics or phones. If they are also, and so we should just have Patricia's mic on or phone on.
Okay. So I just want to make sure you hear me clearly, and then I will start my timer, so I know 10 minutes is my limit.
I can hear you just great, Patricia. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. So I'm going to start with the title, Budgeting for Black Students' Academic Support and Success, a brief look at current Greater Essex County District School Board initiatives, the budget for Black students' academic support and success. Greetings, Madam Chair, Superintendent, trustees, families, and community members of interest. I'm Patricia Poku-Christian. I come to you today to share a presentation focused on budgeting for Black student support and achievement. Why? Well, in light of all the turmoil that COVID has injected into our lives, the academic, social, emotional needs of our Black students prior to the COVID invasion, and so much more now, are not being fairly addressed. This contradicts the board's mandate of building tomorrow together, every learner, every day. Our Black students are being left behind. Much of what our Black children need are really available, but not as accessed or used effectively. When something isn't efficient, funding is not utilized to its fullest. In the spirit of being a part of the solution, here are some budgetary recommendations that I pray will be seriously considered. I'm looking at three things: graduation coach funding, CYS funding and allocation, and then superintendent selection. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the efforts the Greater Essex County District School Board has made to provide support for our Black students. First one is graduation coach funding. The graduation coach program is modeled after 4 directions: First Nations, Métis, and Inuit graduation coach approach at Dryden High School. A brief history of the project: the 4 directions approach is based on work that has previously had success in supporting student learners. Its initial foundation was in the city of Atlanta, Georgia, where a high school graduation coach program successfully increased the high school graduation of African American students. An increase in credit, so specific educational achievements of the graduation coach program include an increase in credit attainment from 60% of grade 9 students to 90% after the program implementation. A decrease in dropout rates from 16% of students leaving school after the first semester of grade 9 before program implementation at Dryden High School to 2% following the implementation. Following the introduction of the graduation coach program at St. Joseph's High School in Edmonton, graduation rates of Indigenous students increased from 14.9% in 2008-9 to 43.8% in 2010-11. The Greater Essex County District School Board is credited with excellent foresight for adopting the graduation coach program. It is one of 6 positions in all of Ontario, this is commendable. The graduation coach role and responsibilities is a proven and effective tool if and when it is utilized, as it was tried and proven and mapped out to be used. The following quote is the Greater Essex County District School Board's graduation coach description in the 2019-2020 budget. Here's the quote: graduation coach program pilot for Black students. This PPF funding is focused on addressing systemic barriers to achievement and well-being and supporting the success of Black students. The pilot involves providing intensive culturally responsive support to Black students and hiring graduation coaches, plural, I want to stress that, with connections to Black communities to act as mentors, also plural, for Black students, with the assistance of school staff and board leadership. This funding was announced late in the 2019-2020 year. A little research of that funding revealed that the graduation coach pilot was introduced and brought on board and within the province of 6 school boards. They were given funding and they divvied up $1.7 million, I believe. In this same budget, there's $112,000 allotted to one graduation coach. In order for a program like this to be successful, there's a model that was given to the ministry on a formal study, which was concluded in 2018. The 4 directions First Nations Métis and Inuit graduation coach approach. Simcoe County District School Board also within Ontario is one of the 6 boards which acquired the graduation coach alongside Greater Essex County District School Board. Simcoe follows the model of one graduation coach per high school. Here's a brief report of their experiences. It's been about 6 weeks since 2 new staff members were hired by the public school board to help better prepare Black students on their road to graduation. And the board says the positive impacts are already obvious after 6 weeks. The 2 graduation coaches for Black students came on board in February as part of a pilot project through the Simcoe County District School Board. With that being said, the Greater Essex County District School Board chose to revamp the model so that we have funding for one really effective and well-versed individual, which is Dr. Ola, but instead of 12 students or 14 students or 15 students, this one individual is responsible for 15 high schools. And here's where the confusion of the budgeting comes into play. Concept, ideally, you start with 1 graduation per school, which would be 15 new hirees, and I'm just throwing that out there, and that dollar value, I understand, is daunting. So then even a possibility of starting with 4 graduation coaches at 4 selected high schools, then you grow the program gradually from there. The Greater Essex County District School Board, although provided with a tried and true map to success, has chosen to follow a different path. Successful models are available in model schools in Aurelia, in Dryden, in Simcoe, and Toronto. All areas and districts are within our reach via Zoom or otherwise. This chosen path to assign 1 graduation coach to 15 schools may be a reason for the most recent request for ABC virtual community tutors. Again, a great initiative on the part of the Greater Essex County District School Board, but yet also an echo of your very own graduation coach in November 2020 to our community, asking for help for an avalanche of students for this one person to monitor. From the outside, 1 graduation coach for 15 schools presents like an effort to check a box rather than a well-intended attempt to support our Black students. Let me repeat and stress, the graduation coach program is an excellent move forward on the part of the Greater Essex County District School Board. A budget allotment for 4 coaches would be more precise testament of building faith in the Greater Essex County District School Board in regards to the safety, well-being, and academic success of our Black students. Second point I'd mentioned was CYF funding and allocation. CYF counselors, and I believe in the board, they call it change your futures. Within our community, we like to say choose your future, because changing assumes that we're going to make the worst decisions ever. So I'm going to just say with CYF, but I may say choose because that fits in my head. CYF counselors are already in the budget, adding more Black CYF counselors with lived experiences to create a supporting bridge between the student and their academics is another piece to be seriously considered. Sadly, it has been the experience of some counselors who advocate for the cultural, emotional, and academic needs of our Black students who have faced similar pushback and retribution in the face of combating the systemic barriers that prevent our Black, African, and Caribbean students from experiencing academic and overall success. CYF are only in the secondary panel, and we know that elementary age students need the same type of academic and socio-emotional, culturally relevant support from junior kindergarten through grade 12. Many community advocates, such as YCA West Indian and then the West Indian Association, Black Women Forward Action, the Black Council of Windsor Ethics, and others have also spoken to the social, economic, and cultural disturbances that have interfered with the successes and safety of our Black students and teachers. And very last thing here is number 3, superintendent selection. A superintendent position is opening this July 2021. Suggestion is a superintendent with lived experiences from a different lens. A Black lived experience and community awareness would not cost the board a penny. Simply sliding in an individual who is trained under the similar cultural perspectives and lens of the many, many past years will likely continue to maintain a status quo that is unsatisfactory to both Black teachers and students alike. Not having superintendents or administrators of color is a disservice to all students, staff, and families. It is especially a disservice to our students who are suffering the most by not connecting to a leadership role model. Bringing in another set of eyes, ears, and perspectives will be a starting point to tweak the current flow of undervaluing of our Black employees and students' abilities. So here are the numbers and the sources of revenue. Number 1, graduation coach funding. I just put number, I put 400,000 for 4 high schools, so 1 per high school, and that would cover at least 150 students. I'm just throwing numbers out. I don't know. This is where you guys have to do this part. And that would work out to about $2,667 per student per year. The second one is CYF funding and allocation, and that is, I believe, falls under the GSN. And then the last one is superintendent selection, changing of the guards in July. Funding is already allocated because there's a salary there. All done. Was that my timer?
It is. Do you have the last numbers to finish up? Okay, wonderful. I didn't want to cut you off there. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much. So, do we have any questions of? Thank you very much, Patricia. We really appreciate you showing up tonight and dealing with our technical ins and outs and presenting us with that information this evening. Do we have any questions from trustees of clarification for our delegate this evening? Questions of clarification for our delegate?
Trustee Burgess has one.
Thank you very much. Trustee Burgess, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, a comment that I like the idea of choose your future. Thank you for that suggestion. My question for clarification, because I think it's a very detailed presentation, I want to know if this has gone through the Anti-Black Racism Committee. Has it been presented there? Or is there support for it there? And should we share it there?
I am a community member, and so I am not part of the Anti-Black Racism Committee, and so I'm not aware of what has transpired thus far. So I don't know, does that answer your question? So
it does. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions from trustees for our delegate this evening? I did have one. Thank you, Ms. Poku-Christian. You did mention 2 studies. There's one from Atlanta and one from Edmonton on the grad coach funding. Are there any current studies that we have from Ontario? I know that you mentioned some of the the recent initiatives from some places like Simcoe County. I'm just wondering if there's any other research that's local to Ontario in our current climate or in the way that we fund our education system, whether you know of any studies from Ontario in that same regard for grad coach funding.
So when I mentioned the Dryden High School. Dryden High School, if I'm not mistaken, is in Ontario. The PhD person, Sean Lassard, he is from the University of Alberta, but he did everything at the Dryden High School, which is located in Ontario, I believe, Northern Ontario.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for clarifying that.
Okay. So I do have his contact number and the teacher who is also involved, the key teacher who is also involved with all of that. And I believe she's still teaching, not at Dryden, but still in Ontario.
Thank you very much. Any other questions for our delegate this evening? Thank you, Ms. Boku-Christian. Can you forward your speaking notes to Madame Leboeuf to be included in our minutes for this meeting?
Melissa Leboeuf. Yes, I can do that.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. We'll give you a few minutes to sort of exit the meeting. I know it does it does give us an indication that you're leaving. So we appreciate you. Yes, that's right. Yes, it'll let us know. Thank you very much, Ms. Boku-Christian. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, bye-bye.
Unknown participant is now exiting.
I'm roughing it tonight over here with this internet. My apologies to everyone. I hope it won't go in and out like that all night, but it's sketchy today. Madame Leboeuf, do we have our speaker on the line?
I'm going to call right now.
Thank you. So trustees, if we can just be patient while we get Kristen Garrett-Spanswick on the phone.
Hello.
Unknown participant is now joining.
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you. Kristen, I am going to just introduce you once again here and remind anyone else, so trustees and administrators, anybody on the line, if you can please mute your phones and your mics while our speaker is speaking. It just gives her a little more clarity of audio for us all. So Ms. Garrett-Spanswick, you will have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to provide input as part of the public consultation process on behalf of the OSFTF Educational Support Staff Bargaining Unit. I want to thank you again for the work that you do. Educational support staff, or ESS, provide crucial support to some of our most at-risk and special needs students. ESS address the needs of students with behavioral, developmental, and physical challenges. Students who may be deaf, hard of hearing, or visually impaired, intellectually or socially challenged, gifted, or autistic. All rely on educational support staff to adapt materials and programs daily in order to help them succeed in a classroom environment. The ESS who support our students require exceptional communication skills and the ability to adapt to all kinds of educational needs and scenarios. ESS have to be able to address the often complex social and individualized needs of our students and frequently work with parents and community agencies to make sure that students' needs are being met. These students are given the opportunity to participate and succeed in school because ESS are working every day to give them a positive, safe, and healthy learning environment. From JK to grade 12, ESS inspires students to be who they are and enhance their school experience to be the best it can be. But we cannot do more with less. Less staff, less equipment, less resources for the ever-increasing student needs will not work. Our special education enrollment continues to grow every year because of the wonderful programming and support that the Greater Essex Board offers through the amazing work of our staff. I turn now to provide important areas of suggestion that will hopefully help contribute to your decision-making when approving the final budget. ESF members use electronic devices every day to develop behavior plans, safety plans, create programming, and for communication with other staff, and to document learning and make student assessments, track data, share updates, and student successes as part of the school-based team. It is important for the board to recognize the value of ESS having a board-provided individual device to utilize on a daily basis, especially during the times of pivoting to remote learning in order to best carry out the duties of their jobs and support the success of the students they are assigned to. We appreciate the efforts the board has attempted this year to meet this technology need, but all ESS need to access this equipment to help their students be successful. Another urgent need is that of additional temporary support staff and wage parity. In recent years, there has been an ongoing shortage of temporary support staff to fill assignments when permanent ESS are absent for a variety of reasons, leaving many unfilled assignments on a daily basis. This year, in the middle of a global pandemic, those shortages have created a staff crisis involving safety in our board, putting both staff and our most vulnerable students at an increased risk. These risks lead to injuries and further absences and increased cost to the board, not to mention the cost of lowered morale and increased workload to those remaining in the class. This year, the need has been so great on a daily basis that permanent ESS are being reassigned within the board to strictly support the safety needs in other classrooms and schools, leaving other students without support. We have discussed many times over the years with the board the possible suggestions to help improve this situation. We recognize that this is a province-wide problem, but in looking at our local circumstances, we are making the suggestion that wage parity with our coterminous board might help to level the playing field by attracting more applicants to our board and retaining those that are currently hired. Currently, the hourly wage difference between the two boards' daily support staff is over $6 an hour. I'm not sure about you, but all things being equal, most people would choose the higher paying employer. We are asking that as part of the budget process, the board look at bringing the temporary support staff more on par with their local peers. We recognize that this could be viewed as a bargaining item. However, in the past, the board has agreed to this type of option for specific job classifications within TSS, and the board was having a hard time attracting and retaining employees to. We are asking for this for some consideration for all TSS to help improve the situation. In order to be successful and continue to progress, we need more TSS and more resources in order to better service our students with special needs. In my experience, the Board of Trustees has always put students who require specialized support and those that support them first, and I would expect no different from you when you make decisions regarding the final budget. Thank you for this opportunity and your defense of public education.
Thank you, Ms. Garrett-Spanswick. Appreciate that. 17 seconds remaining. Nice work. Do we have any questions of our speaker this evening? Questions of clarification for Ms. Garrett-Spanswick? Questions of clarification for Ms. Garrett-Spanswick. I want to thank you very much for coming and consulting with us. We are still awaiting our GSNs and our budget documents from the ministry, but we definitely do appreciate the public consultation on it and this detailed information on behalf of your membership. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate the time.
Thank you. We'll just give you a second to exit.
Unknown participant is now exiting.
Getting the hang of this eventually. Okay, so we're moving through our agenda here. We're on L, new business. We have L1, our policy and regulation on employee conflict of interest. Do we have a mover for L1, employee conflict of interest?
Move it. I'll move it.
Thank you very much, Trustee Hatfield. If we can do things by chat, my internet is awful today, and so I think I may be missing some people by audio. So if we can just move and second by chat, that would be great. I have a mover for this policy and regulation. Do I have a seconder?
Trustee Leclerc has seconded.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Do we have any discussion on the employee conflict of interest policy and regulation this evening? Any questions, any discussion? I'm careful not to rush through this, as I know it's probably my internet that is causing us a problem here. Seeing no discussion, looking for approval on this employee conflict of interest policy and regulation this evening. Approval. I see Trustee Halberstadt. Thank you.
Are you asking for support,
Madam Chair,
or not opposed?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Trustee Olmsted.
This is sorry. My internet has been equally as testy as yours, it seems, this evening. So you keep going in and out. We're discussing the policy about the conflict of interest. Is that what it is?
Yes, we're on employee conflict of interest policy and regulation.
Okay. If you could just, I just have to get to that. I just had one quick question.
Sure.
Sorry, I'm out of breath because I was trying to find a place in my house where the internet was not quite as terrible as it seems to be this evening.
I feel you tonight. I do.
I'm not sure what's going on. It's pretty bad. Okay. I believe my question was, and I can't find the exact section right now. I believe it was in the definition sections of what a family member constituted. Okay, it's on page 16. And I just had a question about, it says a guardian and child on that section. And then it says including an adopted child and a child for whom the employee has demonstrated a settled intention to treat as a child of their family. And my issue is singling out adopted children. Like I have several family members and friends who have adopted children who also have biological children, and they don't distinguish between the two. And I found that to be a little bit insensitive to adopted children. I mean, they're their parents' children just as much as a biological child is. So when I read that, it really stood out to me. So I was wondering if we could maybe have the word dependent instead, because I really, I'm not sure if it was just me dealing with adopted children in our family, but I know that would be an issue reading this for an employee.
For trustees, yes, is on page 16. And it's saying, so you're looking to have amended.
The word, it says family member, which includes a spouse, including common law, same-sex partners, parent, guardian, and child. And then in parenthesis, it says including an adopted child and a child for whom the employee has demonstrated a settled intention to treat as a child of their family. And I found it very odd that adopted child would be even mentioned, because there isn't a distinguishment between an adopted and a biological child once that child is part of your family.
Are we looking to amend this policy to include the word dependent, or are we just looking for comment on why?
A comment on why, maybe the thought process behind that, and if possible to amend it to remove that.
Let's get comment from Superintendent Armstrong on, I believe this is
Superintendent Houston, I would believe.
Houston, yeah.
I think so.
Thank you. Superintendent Houston, can you make comment on the terminology for adopted child, whether that needs to be in this regulation?
Thank you. Thank you for the question, through you, Madam Chair. So this was reviewed by our legal counsel. They didn't bring up any change in terminology, but I'd be happy to bring it back to just ensure that the word dependent as opposed to adopted doesn't change the context of what we're trying to say, and we could amend it before we post the policy.
So are we looking in that case to send it back to policy committee to have that amended before we bring it back here to the board?
For you, Madam. Houston to do so. I think that that would be what we would look to, if that's okay with Trustee Olmsted who raised the question.
Trustee Olmsted, any comment on that?
No, through you. I just found it very odd that adopted children were kind of singled out in that particular definition of what a family member was, being as an adopted child and a biological child are a family's children, regardless of how they came to be that part of that family. And so I just wondered what the thought process was behind it. My next question was if it had actually been reviewed by legal counsel, and if the word dependent could be used interchangeably in that situation. So I would be very comfortable with that suggestion, leaving it with Superintendent Houston. It stood out like a red flag to me. So I just wanted to bring it to the attention.
So just so everybody's clear on what we're voting on, we're gonna leave it as is. Right now, the suggestion is not to amend it. We're gonna leave it as is and have Superintendent Houston bring it back for review. But we'll approve it as is. And if it needs to be adjusted, we can do that in the kind of post of that. Is that kind of where we're at?
I have a question, Madam Chair. I put it in the chat, but it's on this for clarification.
Okay, go ahead, Trustee Burgess. I'm sorry, guys, I'm not seeing the chat.
Okay, it's just there with a Q. And it's for clarification. As a member of policy, having looked at this once and having had it presented, it didn't raise a flag, but it does now for me, but it's not maybe on the same area. I think what the clarification is that the adopted child is there only to give, I think, context to the next bit, and a child for whom the employee has demonstrated a settled intention to treat as a child. That may not have the same legal status as dependent or adopted child or child. But it is mentioned. So, for example, common law spouse is there along with spouse. Same-sex partners, they're all have different legal status, and so maybe that's why they're mentioned. But I have a question now about the child for whom the employee demonstrated a settled intention to treat as a child. I wouldn't want dependent in there if under any other description of the word dependent, whether it's, Canada Revenue or whatever, or whomever, that we lose that part. That seems like maybe an adoption in the making, but not finalized.
So is that a question to Superintendent Houston as well, or is that an amendment that we're looking for here?
For me, Madam Chair, it would be a consideration when you look at it again and ask for that legal opinion. That's all I'm flagging. Thank you.
So I think what we're doing here is looking at approving this in principle with some of those details to come back to us through Superintendent Houston. Is that what I'm hearing? Trustee Cook, if you can keep an eye on the chat for me, because it's not populating for me this evening.
No problem.
Thank you. So hearing no opposition to that, if we, I'm looking for approval on this policy and regulation and principles.
Trustee Hatfield has a question.
Thank you. Go ahead, Trustee Hatfield.
Thank you. I'm just a little bit confused on this procedurally.
Yep.
I find this a little bit unusual to approve a policy and then it might be changed later. I find that awkward.
Yep, I think I'm with you on that. I think I may look to refer this back to policy committee if we have some significant issues with what's in front of us, and we may want to refer it back to policy committee for those things to come back to us in full.
Yeah, I think because it is a policy of the board, I would make a motion to refer it back to policy committee.
I just put that in the chat, so I support that motion, Madam Chair. Trustee Burgess speaking.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I apologize for the kind of chaos of the meeting tonight when my internet is catching up, so I appreciate that. So I have a motion on the floor to refer the policy and regulation employee conflict of interest back to policy committee. It's been seconded. Just looking for discussion on that or a vote in lieu of discussion.
There's lots of support. There's 3 of us that supported in the chat. 4 of us, 5.
All right, so we will refer that back to Policy Committee. I appreciate that this evening, trustees, and you're rolling with the technical punches that we have this evening. So we will be referring Policy and Regulation Employee Conflict of Interest back to Policy Committee for some
Hang
of those
on,
details.
Madam Chair. Trustee Halberstadt has a question.
Oh, I'm just voting in favor.
Thank you, Trustee Halberstadt. All right, so with that, we are sending that back to Policy Committee, and that will come back to us with some of those definitions and questions that we had. Thank you very much, trustees. So I'm moving on to L2, updated policy on commercial advertising in schools. We have the recommendation in front of us. Do we have someone to move that recommendation at L2?
Trustee Hatfield and Trustee Leclerc.
Thank you so much. Do we have any discussion on L2?
I don't see anybody discussing. Sorry, Madam Chair.
No, not at all. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. So, any opposed to the Policy and Regulation 8002 commercial advertising in schools? Anyone opposed to that policy and regulation?
No opposers.
I'm putting it a word tonight, Trustee Cook. I appreciate it. All right, moving forward now to L4, we're looking at another policy and regulation, BA 18, student accident insurance.
L3, Madam Chair. Do we just do L3?
We skipped over L3 right in my agenda. Thank you. So we're on to L3, updated policy and regulation AD 39, animals live in the classroom or school. Do I have a mover for L3?
Trustee Leclerc and Trustee Hatfield.
Thank you so much. Any discussion on L3, animals in the classroom? Any discussion here?
Nothing in the chat, just support.
Thank you very much. So I'm looking for, Trustee Ching has a question.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And I see the animals that are allowed on school site for 1 day or less, or more than 1 day. And to be honest, there are a lot of words that I don't understand, but I want to ask if I know that sometimes the students' class do experiment on dead body of pigs, and is it included in the policy? I didn't when I check those, I didn't see that.
Anyone from administration want to take that? Superintendent Armstrong, I'm seeing you there.
Certainly, thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. No, this policy would not address that because this policy is dealing with live animals in the classroom. Thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I might have chat up now. Possibly, maybe, we'll see. Any other discussion on L3, animals live in the classroom? Seeing no further discussion, I'm looking for anyone opposed to this current policy and regulation as recommended. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, thank you so much. We're moving forward now to L4, the updated policy and regulation BA 18, student accident insurance. We have the recommendation in front of us. Do I have a mover for this policy and regulation?
So move.
You have Trustee Leclerc and Trustee Hatfield.
And Trustee Halberstadt as well. Thank you very much for that. Do we have any discussion on student accident insurance policy and regulation?
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Trustee Ching.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. And on page 33, and the last words, and to change the plan to policy, the board shall not be held responsible for the collection of funds related to this policy. I just wonder why we change plan to policy. I mean, this plan is kind of when we try to make the parents buy the insurance for the students, and it's kind of activity or a plan. And why do we change to policy?
So this is in the policy or in the regulation? Regulation on 33, page 33. Superintendent Armstrong?
Yep, thank you for the question. Through you, Madam Chair. The word plan or policy can be used interchangeably. I guess when I think of it as in terms of an insurance policy, but we can use either word. The reference to policy is in reference to the insurance policy, not the policy of BA18, if that makes sense. So I'm happy to adjust it either way, whatever the trustees would like.
Point for information.
Sorry, could we just call it insurance policy to avoid any confusion?
Are we looking to amend that?
I would move an amendment that it says insurance policy on page 33, the last two words of the document. And then there's no confusion.
I'll support that.
Discussion, Burgess?
Thank you. Go ahead, Trustee Burgess.
I wasn't the mover, so I may not be in order here. But anyway, I just want to notice on page 32, it is referred to as an insurance plan. And I believe the regulation follows the same wording regarding the insurance plan. So if you move it to policy, it's going to be out of sync. The regulation will be out of sync in the word policy, not linking to the word insurance plan on page 32 of the policy.
Where is that in here? So in the final paragraph of the policy, it says that the board will make available to students, parents, and guardians a student accident insurance plan.
Can I say something? Yeah.
Madam Chair,
yes,
there's questions in the, I don't know if your chat is up yet, but Trustee Hatfield, then Trustee Chin.
Thank you. Trustee Hatfield, go ahead.
Okay, so I guess I'm going by what the policy committee recommended, that the word plan be changed to the word policy.
Right.
That was recommended by the committee, and I'm only adding the word insurance in front of the word policy so that it's, as Superintendent Armstrong just explained, so that it's not confused with the board policy.
Right.
If you just leave it the word policy. The whole discussion about calling it a plan, I would assume that went through the committee. So that's why I'm going with the word policy that was recommended and clarifying it with the word insurance.
So
I guess I need more clarification from either someone on the committee or Superintendent Armstrong as to which word is appropriate, plan or policy. Because the committee is recommending the word policy.
Oh, can I say something?
Wait, Superintendent Armstrong, do you want to take that?
Certainly. Again, as I explained, I guess I thought of them interchangeably. So maybe, we didn't. When I read the sentence, I can certainly appreciate the question. And maybe we just change it to say the board shall not be held responsible for the collection of funds related to the student accident insurance policy or plan. Again, I think we just need to be consistent. I'm not trying to make it overly complicated. Like I said, I think of the words interchangeably, but I can certainly appreciate where the confusion might come from.
Trustee Hatfield, do you have a supplemental to that?
Well, I'm okay if it would be accepted as a friendly amendment to actually put the whole title out, student accident insurance policy, the way that Superintendent Armstrong just suggested.
And this would be in point 5 on page 33, that the board shall not be held responsible for the collection of funds relating to this student accident insurance policy.
Well, I'm sold on the words student accident insurance, and then whatever word the committee wants to put in there. Student accident insurance policy, if that's what the committee's recommended.
Okay, so that we have, is that a friendly amendment to?
If Trustee Cook will support that.
Thank you. Trustee Cook?
I do.
What we are dealing with, trustees, is the question of the amendment to this policy being in point 5 on page 33. That point 5 shall read, the board shall not be held responsible for the collection of funds relating to this student accident insurance policy. Any discussion on that? Go ahead, Trustee Chin.
Yeah, I think it is referred to a student accident insurance plan, as we mentioned in the policy part. And I think if we change to policy, it's kind of confused with the policy of our board. And when we read the item 4 above in this page 23, it mentioned the effort to distribute the applications for enrollment in the program. And I think the number 5 refers to the endeavor or actions that the school board down to will do to distribute the plan. So I think the student accident insurance plan clearly, mentioned its meaning, and change to policy is kind of redundant. Thank you.
The mover has a suggestion.
Thank you to the mover of the amendment, Trustee Hatfield.
Could we just put a period after the word insurance? Student accident insurance, period.
If that changes, wondering if that changes the intention of it.
I don't think it does. Doesn't matter if it's a plan or a policy, it's still student accident insurance. That would be real simple.
So is that an amendment on the amendment? Or are you as the mover?
I'm just trying to help clarify this because I don't think we should get bogged down in whether it's a plan or a policy. We're talking about the student accident insurance, period.
So what we have on the floor, trustees, is this, that number 5, we are looking for a seconder on this, and Trustee Cook, you are the current seconder of this amendment. What we are looking for is that number 5 on page 33, read, the board shall not be held responsible for the collection of funds relating to this student accident insurance, period. Do we have a seconder? Thank you. Discussion on this. I know we're in the weeds a bit here, but I think we're trying to get to the same place.
Madam Chair, I have had my name in the chat for a bit.
Thank you. Go ahead, Trustee Burgess.
As a member of policy, this wasn't flagged as incongruent in the regulation and the policy. It's not unusual that we would miss something. A lot of words to go over. I think the intent of inserting the word student accident insurance is correct. It makes it really, really clear. If we want to put a period, which is what is on the floor now on the amendment, on the amendment, on the amendment, I'm fine with that. I think if you added the word plan, however, insurance plan, it actually makes it completely reflective of what's in the policy with a capital P. And I think that's part of what we do too. We try to have like capital P for policy, and when it's a policy of the board, and small p when it's something else. It just happens that we're talking about a policy in a policy. So obviously there might be some confusion, especially, you know, with the wordsmithing. So let's make it very, 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 very clear. And I would suggest that we substitute the word policy with student accident insurance plan. And then it's in keeping with policy PBA 18. And that's all I have to say for it. I will support almost anything at this point.
So are you suggesting an amendment to the amendment? Which will need a seconder.
Yes, I am.
So the amendment to the amendment, which needs a seconder, is that point 5 on page 33 would read, the board shall not be held responsible for the collection of funds relating to this student accident insurance plan, period.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
We need a seconder for that amendment. Seeing and hearing none. Trustee Cook, do we have anyone in the chat? I'm sorry, guys.
Trustee Leclerc is making a comment. Trustee Leclerc, will you speak to that, please?
We need a seconder before we make.
Okay, it'll be a point of order, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Point of order, it might be prudent to withdraw the previous amendments and just have a clean cut new amendment on the floor. That would be my suggestion. Then we don't have to go through 4 revisions of amendments to get to the original, if the people that made those motions are so inclined to withdraw.
Amen. And I don't have a supporter, so I will withdraw mine. Thank you.
So just, Madam Chair, Trustee Chin seconded Trustee Burgess's motion amendment,
which she has now withdrawn. And we are back to the board shall not be held responsible for the collection of funds relating to this student accident insurance, period. That is the current amendment on the floor, and I will take a vote on that current amendment, which is on page 33.5. The board shall not be held responsible for the collection of funds relating to this student accident insurance. Anyone opposed to that amendment? Anyone opposed to that amendment?
Nothing in the chat, Madam Chair, no opposers.
Thank you. So that amendment passes. Any other discussion on this policy and regulation? Any other discussion on BA 18, the policy and regulation? Seeing and hearing none, I will look for opposition to the policy as amended. Any opposition to policy and regulation BA 18, student accident insurance as amended? Anyone opposed to that? Seeing and hearing none, grateful to Trustee Cook for monitoring that, and to trustees for rolling with my technological punches today. We'll have that one approved. Thank you very much, trustees. So that is L4, it's been approved. We're moving on to L5, school naming committee for the new school in Amisburg. Recommendation on the floor is that the board approve the appointment of the members for the new school in the Amisburg naming committee. Do I have a mover?
Trustee Cook moves it and Trustee Olmsted seconds it.
Thank you very much. Do we have any discussion on this?
Trustee Hatfield has a question.
Go ahead, Trustee Hatfield.
Yeah, I'm just wondering that we're approving it before we've actually appointed trustees. It's a little bit odd that it says to be determined. I thought that our policy allowed for at least the trustee from that area, which would be Trustee Leclerc, should automatically be appointed to that committee. So I'm a little bit confused about voting on this when we haven't yet determined the trustees.
Indeed, that does confuse me as well. The regulation does read that we have 2 trustees on this committee, and one of those is generally the trustee from the area. Director Kelly, do you have any?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, I would suggest that we would need if the area trustee agrees, that's generally what we do, and I'm sure Trustee Leclerc may want to be on that, of course. And then would you take a nomination, a volunteer perhaps, for someone else to be involved in that?
Yes.
Indeed, I would, and I have heard from Trustee Leclerc that he does desire to be on that, which I am grateful for. Do we have any one from the floor who would also like to be on the committee?
Trustee Hatfield or Trustee Hatfield?
Trustee Hatfield is nominating herself to be on the committee.
Correct.
Yep. Wonderful. So what we are looking to approve here is that the trustee members on the new Amisburg naming committee will be Trustee Leclerc and Trustee Hatfield.
Madam Chair, we have
indeed.
a question by Trustee Burgess.
Thank you. Go ahead, Trustee Burgess.
Madam Chair, thank you. With respect to the naming for this particular school, I've been and other trustees have been vocal about certain opinions of what to omit. And I would like to attach to the minutes some primary source information that prohibits me from ever approving anything with the name Amherst in it. And I want to be on record for that and upfront about that. And I would rather not get into a wrangling match with the committee if something like that comes forward. And it's a letter penned by General Amherst discussing the genocide. I don't know who is on the committee, and I don't know who is. We're about to approve that, but I would hope that the thoughts of with that primary evidence goes forward to the committee so they understand why there would be opposition from some members of this board.
Thank you, Trustee Burgess. What we're approving tonight is just the appointments of those members, knowing that they are the Board of Trustee representatives on those committees, and we can certainly be in contact with those 2 trustees as they go through the process with the entire naming committee as well. So what we are approving tonight is the appointment of those members.
Madam Chair, Trustee
yes,
Leclerc. Trustee Leclerc would like to comment.
I would comment regarding the primary source. I'm well aware of Jeffrey Amherst's previous activities when he was in this area. I'll take that as guidance, Trustee Burgess, but I agree that we are on the same page.
And I was looking, Madam Chair, if I could indulge, thank you very much for that, because I don't know the background of the committee structure, but I would want representation from our First Nations, Métis, or Inuit community, and with Trustee Leclerc on it, I'm assured that that's present. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, and I support the committee as stands.
Thank you very much, and thank you to both of you for that discussion. It's very important. Any other discussion on appointing our 2 esteemed colleagues, Trustee Leclerc and Trustee Hatfield, to the Amisburg naming committee, the naming committee for our new Amisburg school? Any other discussion on that?
No one in the chat, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you very much to the two of you for volunteering to be our representatives on our behalf. Any opposition to those two trustees as our representatives on this naming committee? Any opposition from trustees? Seeing and hearing none, I thank you very much, and thank you in advance to the two of you for your stewardship through that important process. We are moving down now to L6. We have a notice of motion from Trustee Burgess. The recommendation is in front of you that the GECDSB determine by board discussion or referral to a committee for their recommendation on what is meant by the word session, as per our current Robert's Rules of Order, 12th edition, Chapter 4, 8.4, and any other pertinent sections, as well as determine if any special rules need adoption regarding renewal of motions. Trustee Burgess, would you like to put that on the floor?
Yes, I, in the chat, have shown my intention to move it.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder on that?
Madam Chair, Trustee Chin.
Thank you very much. So it's been seconded. Do we have any discussion on this?
As the mover, Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Trustee Burgess.
This was given first notice in our December 8th meeting, and I believe it's business that is still outstanding. In the meantime, immediately after that notice of motion being given, I have privately contracted an exemplary parliamentarian to give an opinion on this, so that if it was to move forward, we would have that expert opinion to guide us in the discussion to where it's referred. I would refer it personally, Madam Chair, to policy. I think our bylaws have had a thorough review, and there have been amendments since that review in the fall of 2018. I don't think we need a bylaw review, and I don't really even think we need an ad hoc committee or anything like that. I think it can go to policy, because it is regarding the bylaws, which is, you know, part of our governance and our policy that we undertake. The things that I'm looking for are clarification, and I'm hoping that we can refer this to policy committee, and there I will share the information that I've procured. I am on policy presently, and I'm fully prepared to discuss this matter there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this notice of motion?
Trustee Cook is in the queue.
I have a question, Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Trustee Cook.
I was just wondering, through you, Madam Chair, didn't we have a legal opinion on this? And I believe that we did, and I'm just wondering why we're still discussing this.
Point of order, Madam Chair, that anything of a legal opinion was not for public discussion.
Well, we did have, at approval of the agenda, there would have, at the time, there was a discussion of that, which was in public.
Was
so
it?
We have, yes, approval of the agenda was in public. We unfortunately were not live streaming at that point, but it was part of approval of the agenda of public session. Trustee Cook, are you looking to me to clarify that?
I am, and I'm just thinking that, you know, instead of discussing this, I believe that it needs to go to a committee. If it's going to go anywhere, I don't think we need to discuss it. I do know that we had a legal opinion, but if it is supported, then I just think it needs to go to a committee.
Thank you. Do we have any further discussion on this or questions from trustees?
Yes. Trustee Chin?
Go ahead, Trustee
Thank
Chin.
you. Hi, thank you, Madam Chair. And I think that this discussion of session comes out from the previous public meeting, and when we debate regarding the definition of sessions. And on rules of order, Robert's Rules of Order, on page 84, it is said it is usually unwise in ordinary societies to adopt a rule making regular sessions last over a long period of time. Such a rule would make it possible for the hands of the organization to be tied during that time, since the same question cannot be brought up again during the same session after it is too late to reconsider. And when this happened, we were discussing the mask for the grade 1 and grade 2 students, and at that time, based on these rules, based on our understanding of sessions, that we cannot discuss it over the 4 years as a session, and so that motion was not discussed. It was discarded at that time. So I think is not a reasonable way to handle a motion during this pandemic, during this unprecedented period of time. So 4 years understanding as a session is not acceptable, no matter if it is consulted with a lawyer or not. And based on what I read just now in the Robots Rules of Order, and it clearly mentioned that we should not understand sessions for more than 1 year for too long before we made the.
Trustee Chin, I want to make sure that we're sticking to what we have on the floor here, which is not re-adjudicating a previously determined decision, but instead we are discussing how to move forward with the word session.
Yeah, so I think it is wise to refer it to a committee for recommendation about what the definition session means, and in case in the future we did the similar thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this?
We have Trustee Hatfield and then Trustee Leclerc.
Go ahead, Trustee Hatfield.
Thank you. So there is no reference in this motion about a specific incident that was just referred to by the previous trustee. So I'm just not sure what it is that we're referring and why. So I'm not comfortable supporting the motion because I just don't understand it, plain and simple.
Trustee Hatfield, is that a question?
Can I answer it?
Trustee Chin, nope, that is not to you across the floor.
And I guess my question specifically is the motion says that it gets determined by board discussion or referral, but that board discussion has been taken off the table. Is that my understanding? Because I'm just getting more confused.
As the mover, Madam Chair, I'd be happy to respond.
Yes, just in one second. I want to make sure that we are not in the process of this discussion. If you have a question, it needs to be determined that it's answerable by someone. And if you have a comment, you can make your comments. But if we have a question, it would be good of us to keep it to indicate who that question is for. So to the mover.
And I will be as vague as I can because I do think it should be, as I mentioned earlier, referred to a committee. I said policy committee. I'm happy to have an ad hoc if somebody wants to have an ad hoc committee. I'm happy to have that. I don't think it should be a board discussion. I think it's really finite and particular and nuanced, and I think the public can hear about it once the recommendation comes forward from a committee. And not, quite honestly, waste everybody's time on it. As far as the specific discussion regarding an incident, and I say the notice of motion came on December 8th because of something that happened, I don't want to lose that. when something happens and you realize there's a gap in policy or procedure, then that's often when changes are happening. To the previous speaker who asked a question, I will alert that person that they may not actually have been present at the time of the discussion. So therefore, the minutes may not have captured the entire discussion because minutes aren't verbatim. So that can be something that we can fill in, but it won't change the gist of the motion that there's a gap. And regardless of whether an opinion has been gathered, I have an expert parliamentarian opinion ready that if the board wants it, I engage that person privately. So I'm happy to share it with the board, but I have had no obligation to do so because it was a privately gained opinion. I'm happy to do that at an ad hoc committee. And I think from what I hear, that's the best solution for this. So the motion as it is arises from what I see as a gap, informed by expert opinion, in addition to an opinion already given to the board and paid for by the board for discussion and determination to come back and ratify at our board. So it's a I would say something that is outstanding, but if we restrict ourselves and tie our hands so that we cannot revisit something within 4 years, that is something that will have ramifications. So I think that it's wise for us to adopt this referral so that we can discuss it and then have that committee refer it back to the whole board. Thank you. That's, I hope, clarification.
Thank you. Trustee Hatfield, do you have a supplemental?
I don't think so. I don't think that my question was actually answered, but that's okay. I'm going to pass.
Thank you. Director Kelly.
Yes, I just wanted to alert people to the fact that in 2014, there was a motion that was passed that the policy committee does not deal with bylaws. I know that was mentioned earlier, and maybe I should have said that earlier, but there was a motion in 2014 that the policy committee does not deal with bylaws. I just thought that might bring clarity. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't want to ignore anyone in the chat.
I'm back. Sorry, I got cut off. I'm not sure I'm not sure who the last one was, Madam Chair. But
Hatfield.
I believe I'm up.
Trustee Leclerc has a comment, then Trustee Olmsted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I believe that we do not have a gap, and I don't think this needs to be referred anywhere. Robert's rules are quite complex, and despite the fact there being rules on limitations for sessions, there are always ways to get a matter back on the table. And in fact, that raised its head at least 3 times when I was the chair, and I believe it raised its head immediately after when the current chair took her place as the chair. There are avenues. Robert's rules have those avenues. If something became so important that the will of the board was to change something, then somebody on the prevailing side would likely be prepared to bring that motion forward. So I do not see a gap. We've had legal opinion on this. I do not see the need to do this. So that is why I will not be supporting this.
Thank you. It looks like Trustee Olmsted is next.
Correct.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. From my understanding with procedure, with a board meeting, we are first to refer to our bylaws. And in the absence of a definition of the word session in the bylaws, we then refer to Robert's rules, which is our guiding principle. And there is an absence of definition of the word session, which is a very important point in defining what we do as a board. And therefore, we look to Robert's rules. And I think Robert's rules could not be more clear. I brought this up at the December meeting as a legally trained person that I am. And my legal opinion would be definitely to meet as a committee and come forward with a definition that would therefore be presented to the board. I respect everyone's opinion here, but I have read Robert's rules probably 100 times since I became trustee, and it's very clear how we should proceed, and our bylaws are very void of this particular word and definition. So therefore, I will be absolutely supporting that this is taken to a committee, whatever committee that might be. And I look forward to having a clear definition in our bylaws so that we can be guided by that instead of a very complex, as Trustee Leclerc pointed out, Robert's rules. I think this needs to be defined by our board. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're still in the first round, correct, Madam Chair?
Yes, we are.
So I'm going to go to Trustee Satori.
Yep.
Yes?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you. I've listened to the conversation and the points that other trustees have been making, and I think that the points that Trustee Leclerc made a little while ago are kind of the most pertinent and would stand out for me. I don't see a gap either. And we do have mechanisms to ask for a reconsideration. We've had a legal opinion from a board lawyer. So I'm at this point in the conversation anyway, I would not be supporting the motion on the floor. Thanks.
Madam Chair, the next comment is coming from Trustee Chin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to clarify that.
Sorry, Trustee Cook, I don't mean to interrupt Trustee Chin. Is there any other, this will be your second comment. I just want to make sure there's no one looking to make a first comment before
There's no one else, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Go ahead, Trustee Chin.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. I want to clarify the previous information that other trustees mentioned, that the procedure to make a motion reconsider regarding the prevailing side, one person to make the motion. I read on the rules of order, and actually it's defined that it's no later than the same day or the second day. It's different with what we mentioned regarding to reconsider a motion. So I think we do need a clarification of the meaning and the procedure. So I strongly refer it to a committee before we misunderstood it. I think in this pandemic situation, and we have to be prudent to take action, and we would rather put more energy to clarify something to avoid further delay or mistake. And I think from the previous experience, we didn't make a wise decision by the vote, and I don't think it is a wise decision to discard the reconsideration of the motion. And I think it's for the sake of the whole board. It has nothing to do with individual trustee, but I do want our procedure to be better, and we have to delete all the uncleared understanding. And so I strongly support, and I hope the trustees can give a chance to discuss and make the truth clearer. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Trustees, I want us to be clear here on what we're looking for, and my hesitations with this come in what the motion is actually asking for, and I've heard it repeated by trustees tonight, some of the questions and some of the ambiguity of where this would go. And I thank Director Kelly for pointing out earlier that this cannot be referred to Policy Committee. Policy Committee does not deal with these issues. It would have to go to bylaw. And while I'm hearing that trustees are interested in doing that, I want us to be very aware that that's not codified, or it's not in this motion. It's not clear in this motion where this should be referred to. It says a committee. The committee that would be able to codify this and to put it into practice and policy is our bylaw committee, and that would require 2/3 of us to send it back to open up a bylaw committee and decide that on this terminology for both us and for future boards.
Point of order.
Go ahead.
Just a point of order, it does not require us 2/3 to send it to a bylaw committee. It requires 2/3 to adopt a bylaw with notice at a regular board meeting. So this is not about a bylaw change. This is about a referral to a committee. And it only takes a simple majority to refer a motion to a committee, whatever committee it is.
Thank you for that. I will admit I'm confused about that, because if we are sending it to a bylaw committee and that requires notice, a bylaw committee hasn't been asked for in this particular motion. It's just a committee.
Chair, point of order, because it's a procedural thing within this procedure. You're asking about procedure, and I specifically gave a notice of motion on December 8th. I've deferred it so that I could go over some procedural things prior to the discussion at a meeting. The deferral of this motion was not accepted to the board, so it's on tonight. We can discuss it, and we can discuss it as an issue, or we can discuss it as a referral. It's a simple majority to refer it. I have already stated that referral to an ad hoc committee would be fine, because it's a recommendation about a bylaw change. A bylaw change can come at any meeting with adequate notice. It doesn't require a committee recommendation. Bylaws can be changed anytime with notice at a regular meeting prior. So this notice is for a possibility of a bylaw change, requires simple majority, and notice has been given. So it meets all the criteria with simple majority to pass, to refer it to a committee just to deal with this one issue.
Thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate that.
Madam Chair,
yes?
Trustee Chin is in the queue again. That would be her 3rd time.
I'm not quite finished with my remarks, but I won't be taking third comments or questions on this. I see no issue with referring this to a bylaw committee to have this terminology defined, not only for us but for other boards in the future. We are not experts on this terminology, so to have us discussing it here, we trust our legal opinions, and we trust the people who know more about this than we do. I am fine with having that this referred to an ad hoc committee to have this codified for us and for future boards, but for us to discuss it here, I don't agree with that portion of the motion. The mover, I thank you for clarifying that we can move this to a committee. I am hearing from trustees that would be something that they would be interested in. However, if we are going to, and this is, I guess, to the mover, if we're going to approve this tonight, I would only be really willing to approve it if it was amended to indicate that we will be referring to an ad hoc committee for their recommendation and taking out the first portion of the recommendation. And so that would be my my recommendation for an amendment to this, that we take out that the GECDSB or that we take out by board discussion, or I guess in the original recommendation here. And so if we're going to approve something like that, we would know where it was going and what we were approving. And I guess that I'm making that I'm putting that amendment on the floor.
Madam, I don't think you can put an amendment since you're chairing the meeting, but I would be happy to put that amendment forward. I would, Madam Chair, if I could amend, and I hope I get the support for that, the recommendation read that the GECDSB refer to a committee, an ad hoc committee, for their recommendation, what is meant by the word session, and the rest of it follows. So to strike the word determined by board discussion and change the word referral to refer. That the GECDSB refer to an ad hoc committee. So add the words ad hoc committee for their recommendation, what is meant by the word, and everything else that follows is the same. I would ask if Madam LeBoeuf or anybody else caught that adequately.
Yes, I did.
And I would look for support for that amendment, Madam Chair. And I think
there is support, Madam Chair. Trustee Chin supported it, and Trustee Olmsted.
Sorry.
If I can speak on the amendment.
Sorry, I just had to switch my my audio device here. Those died. So that has been amended and supported. Trustee Burgess.
Thank you. I take all the points that I've heard, and I thank you for that suggestion of the amendment. Makes it clear where it's going, and I think we've discussed enough why. I heard the thing that we always take our legal opinion. I will suggest to you that a legal opinion is valuable, a parliamentarian's opinion is valuable, everybody's opinion at the table in procedure is valuable. A paid opinion is a paid opinion. If I got another lawyer, I might get another opinion. I ask that it be weighed, the opinion, with additional information to what I see as a gap that is very clear in Robert's rules, that it is up to this board to determine session, and we do not have session determined. We have had a legal opinion, and I have a very, very clear and contrary by an expert parliamentarian that is contrary to that legal opinion. I would like that shared, and I think at that committee that can be discussed. So I look for your support. This is nothing that we should be afraid of. I think it clarifies the work going forward for everybody. And I think it would add real value to what we do, especially in times where, as a previous trustee has noted, things change quickly and may have to be reintroduced. There may be a unanimous decision and there's nobody from the other side or whatever. So things need to be reversed sometimes or clarified or changed. And this gives us that flexibility and would be keep us in keeping with every other board in the province who doesn't see sessions as 4-year terms. Thank you.
Thank you, trustees. I'm going to call a vote on this amendment.
Madam Chair, I just want to give you a heads up that, excuse me, Trustee Chin is in the queue for a comment. And again, that would be, well, her first time on the amendment.
On the amendment.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Trustee Chin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I also have asked the other experienced chair and trustees in other board they all think that 4 years as the understanding of a session is kind of ridiculous. And also
we're not,
in the
we're not debating the term sessions right now. Right now, we're debating on whether we're sending this to a committee.
Okay, and yeah, what I'm saying is that obviously we have unclear understanding of the point, so it won't hurt if we go ahead and do something to make it clear. So that's why I want to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustees, I'm not looking to limit any more discussion openly on what we have, but I think we have enough of an idea right now on this amendment to vote on accepting the amendment. So the amendment that we are going to be voting on is that the GECDSB determine by referral to a committee, an ad hoc committee, pardon me, for the recommendation, what is meant by the word session, and then on it goes throughout the rest of the recommendation.
Except, Madam Chair, point of order, the word determine is not in there. I said to strike the word determined by board discussion or
GECDSB refer to an ad hoc committee for their recommendation. Thank you very much for clarifying that. On that amendment, all in opposition to that amendment? Anyone in opposition to that amendment?
Please, people, trustees, just in opposition in the chat. In opposition in the chat, please. I have 1 opposed, 2 opposed, 3 opposed.
Opposed, it's Trustee Sartori. Sorry, my the power went out at my house and I got kicked out. So
thank you.
Sorry for the interruption.
4 opposed.
And that amendment carries. So what we have on the floor is the amended recommendation. We will not be in, I will not be taking any more discussion on it. We've discussed it. And the discussion or the vote that we will be voting on is for the amended recommendation that the GECDSB refer to an ad hoc committee for their recommendation on what is meant by the word session as per our current Robert's Rules of Order, 12th edition, for and other pertinent sections, as well as
Madam
determine
Chair?
if any special rules need adoption regarding renewal of motions. Yes.
Madam Chair, a couple trustees are asking what was the vote?
What was the vote for the amendment?
How many in favor? How many opposed?
There were 4 opposed.
And how many supported?
There would be.
Point of order, was there a recorded vote asked for?
There was not a recorded vote asked for.
So was it determined carried by you? Was anybody challenging you?
Nobody's challenging, Trustee Burgess. People are just asking because it's in the chat. Some were in the chat, some were not. So there's a question as did the chair vote?
So I did not register in opposition. I voted in support of the amendment. Is that clarified enough?
Sounds good.
Thank you. So what we have here on the floor, I am looking for a vote on the amended motion. And just to avoid any of this same discussion or question, I'm going to be looking for everyone to please put support in the chat. If someone wants to ask for a recorded vote, we can do that. But if we're not asking for a recorded vote, then please put your support in the chat. And Trustee Cook, I'll be looking to you.
Okay.
For numbers. So I'm calling the vote on this amended motion. Does anyone need it read again?
So I have 4 in support. 5 in support with Trustee Halberstadt.
So 5 in support. Anyone else in the chat? I don't have access to my chat, but I'll be supporting it. And that passes. Thank you very much. Moving on to reports to be received. Report for the Director of Education. Go ahead, Director Kelly.
Looking to Rochelle for the presentation. I'm sure that's coming up in a second. Are we there, Rochelle?
Actually, it's me, and I'm just trying to get it up.
Sorry about that. It does look like the power's out in places. It's very dark where I am. Only emergency lighting on, except in my office. But all the streets. Okay, thanks everyone. I think it would be an understatement to say this past month has been typically eventful, but we continue to see how staff and students have continued to do the best they possibly could under our circumstances, and they are exhibiting great care, great character, and great compassion. At Giles Campus French Immersion Public School, the grade 1 classes learned about the gift of music by creating their own instruments. The students at McWilliam maintained their connection with their grand pals at Huron Lodge as best they could by staying in touch with correspondence. The grade 1s at Tecumseh Vista Academy celebrated the start of spring by creating a flower garden that will outlast the stay at home order and brighten the hallways when we eventually return to schools. Leamington District Secondary School, Ewan Wilson, took his ideas on food waste in the community to community leaders, leading a discussion on best practices and future solutions with the mayor, Hilda McDonald, and area business people. On one of the final days before the spring break, the students and staff at A.V. Graham enjoyed the history and fashions of the 1980s. Essex Public School raised the flag to acknowledge World Autism Day. And at Hugh Beaton Public School, they wore purple to raise awareness of epilepsy. Gore Hill Public School students and staff wore crazy socks earlier this year for World Down Syndrome Day Awareness Day and raised money which was donated to the community living Windsor, Essex. At McWilliams, the Gaines class demonstrated their green thumbs by growing plants for a school garden and some that they could take home with them to plant at home. And at Bell River Public School, they are modeling forward thinking that can help us all into the future with scientific studies on DNA. I want to say a very sincere thank you to all of our students, to our staff, and to our families for their nimbleness during this very unusual, challenging time, and especially over the last week. Most of all, I just want to wish everyone health and hope. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Kelly. Any questions for the director on her report this evening?
I have a question, Trustee Burgess.
Go ahead, Trustee Burgess.
I wonder, since in your director's reports, we don't often hear of your work behind the scenes with your professional organizations, with your ministry consultations. I wonder if you could give us a quick snapshot of of all that goes behind a pivot. Hearing it in the news or getting it in a memo, or what the difference is, or who you consult with, what your collegial connection is with other directors, how you make determinations and share with your senior staff. Because I know that sometimes when it appears as a tweet, as a small message, as something in EDSB, as something in the news, and we don't know the work that's behind it. I wonder if you could give us a snapshot.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Trustee Burgess, through you, Madam Chair. Yes, there's a lot that goes on behind that, so thank you for acknowledging that. Obviously, a pivot isn't an easy, we do, as you say, get communication through EDSB, but of course, I work very closely with directors across the province. There's a number of ministry calls, ministry meetings that go into that, often with short notice and minimal heads up, but we do work with that. I also sit on the Council of Directors Executive, both at the Public Board Directors and at the Directors Council, Code and Public Directors and directors across the province. So there's a number of discussions. We meet regularly to meet with the ministry and come up with discussions around that. There's planning tables that occur. All of this has happened very quickly. What I'm most proud of course, is that the senior team and principals and teachers really have been extraordinary in terms of coming together. So a lot of the break was spent by the senior team moving to, ensure plans were communicated to families, communicated to principals, communicated to unions and such. So I do acknowledge the very hard work, and thank you for asking the question, because we do work behind the scenes a lot and very quickly to make sure things that do happen. Sometimes the communication is very last minute too. So we try our best to respond. So thank you for the acknowledgement, and I think that our senior team really pulled together quickly, as they have from the outset, to kind of communicate with people.
Madam Chair, there's a comment from Trustee Olmsted.
Thank you. Go ahead, Trustee Olmsted.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. I would like to echo Trustee Burgess's comments. I just would like to commend Director Kelly, the senior staff, our principals, our teachers, our support staff, our students, and their families, because this year has been, there's not even words for it. The stress that everyone has been under, it has been so immense. And I think the amount of work is often unappreciated that goes into making this a smooth school year. And while there have been some hiccups, our students are learning, they're happy. Teachers are trying their very hardest. I know, because I am friends and live with a teacher. And this year has been unprecedented. And I am so proud to see and hear and follow on Twitter and watch my kids learn and know that they have an incredible team working for them. All of last week, the communications never stopped, and it was supposed to be a break, and that never happened. So I just would like to say thank you. Really, there aren't enough words. So thank you to all of you, including all of our principals, teachers, and support staff, because you are all heroes here. And our students are so lucky to have you.
Thank you very much, Trustee Olmsted. Appreciate the sentiments, and I'm very proud of what everybody does across this system to pull together. So thank you to the Board of Trustees for their leadership and support as well.
Thank you very much. Any other trustees with questions for the director on her report this evening? I definitely want to echo what my colleagues have said, not only to everything that we're seeing on the ground, but everything we don't see, and all that goes into it, and all that everybody in the senior team and all of our teachers and support staff ended up doing on their break. And when we get to see evidence of that on the faces of our students, I'm deeply grateful in ways that I didn't even comprehend at the time. So thank you very much for that work.
Thank you, Chair Higginson. Appreciate it.
Thank you. So moving forward to report of the OPSPA Director or Delegate.
Madam Chair?
Go ahead.
I have a verbal report. Since the last regular board meeting, I've attended a special meeting of the OPSPA Board of Directors, but all items on that agenda were in camera and strictly confidential, and so I'm therefore prohibited from sharing the discussion publicly, but I did attend that special meeting of OPSPA Board of Directors. And subsequently, I've attended the Western Regional meeting Saturday before last, which also had a substantial in-camera session too. However, to highlight one urgent concern, our provincial education budget needs have been analyzed, and from all the hints that the Ministry of Education is dropping regarding not supporting further COVID-related expenses, etc., with the analysis by the experts of the OPSPA staff that are assigned to financial analysis, we're finding that it falls really short of what we need and is of great concern. And so as we await the GSNs and plan for September school reopening, etc., I want to flag that for all trustees, and that we have some scrutiny and some advocacy needed in our immediate future. The deadline for resolutions and constitutional amendments for the AGM for OPSPA has passed. Directors received the agenda for this weekend's Board of Directors meeting, and there are some resolutions, etc., in that package, and we'll be discussing that preliminarily and the first perusal. So we'll look at that this weekend and at our all-day meeting, and then prior to that, we'll see it again at our virtual AGM, which takes place in June. I also want to draw the attention to the general public that they may have seen in the media, particularly in the Globe and Mail and on the People for Education site, some reference to proposals for online education going forward. And we take notice of these media events and articles and discussions, and I think that that's something that we will have to scrutinize in the future. I also remind all trustees, and I'll be sending, it'll probably be the third or fourth time you get it, but just to flag it, all trustees to complete the survey sent to you by OPSPA for the Compass project. This is regarding public education governance and our role in it. So either immediately after this meeting or tomorrow, please complete this survey. It's necessary for us to go forward in how we govern. And in a time when governments across the country are systematically trying to eliminate locally elected public school boards, it's essential that our voice be heard at our provincial organization. Thanks, that ends my verbal report.
Thank you very much, Trustee Burgess. Do we have any questions on the OPSPA report? Any questions for Trustee Burgess on the OPSPA report? Trustee Cook, I'm sorry, I still don't have a chat. Is there anyone in?
There's nothing there, I'm sorry.
Thank you, that's okay. Okay, so I'll move forward to my chair's report this evening. I will be brief. I just wanted to thank everyone who's adjusted to the latest change. We have back online for some. We have continuation of online and packets for some. We have some in-person gains and steps, student, staff, and supports as well. And I just wanted to thank everyone. I know that it's been quite an adjustment to keep making changes and to make changes to those changes and to spend your nights, your weekends, and your weeks off refreshing your email to find new information is very frustrating. And I want to thank everyone for everything that you've done to adjust to that for our students, and to parents and students as well for their adjustments to that change.
Madam Chair,
yes.
There's a question in the queue from Trustee Burgess on the chair's report.
Madam Chair, I don't think you were finished, so you might be answering it, but I do have a question regarding vaccination of our staff that we advocated for. I wanted to know what the uptake was, but you may have wanted to include that. I don't know.
I'll go through with my finish up with my chair's report, and then I'll get to your question there. So our Board of Trustees, along with our senior team and the director, have engaged in development of our new strategic plan. And part of our work is to reach out to the communities and to our partners for feedback on how our stakeholders see their work, their experiences, their motivations reflected in the mission, vision, and values we embed in our decision making over the next 4 years. You'll see some changes we've embarked on and some pillars we've renewed our commitment to. Some of our stakeholder groups are going to hear from us through presentations, and you're all encouraged to send your responses to the survey that will go out. We are one of the largest employers in the region. Our school populations represent a diversity of our communities. We invest public dollars in a large part of our lives in our schools, and as a Board of Trustees, we count on hearing from all of you. So you will see some of those surveys coming out. We encourage you all to respond to those. And that is my chair's report. However, I will acknowledge the question of Trustee Burgess. And were you asking, sorry to clarify, were you asking whether there's been a response to our letter?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I put the question in chat and didn't want to interrupt. I just wanted you to know I was trying to listen and just put that there on cue. My question was, we advocated for the vaccination of our employees, seeing them as essential workers in front line, and seeing how, household contact has made its presence, community spread has made its presence, in our schools, et cetera. So we've been very vigilant, very good. So we advocated for that, and an opportunity came for vaccination of our staff who were involved in special education congregated settings. And this opportunity came over the break, and the news of it came just prior to the break. And I'm wondering if we've had any feedback. I listened to the health units thing, and I hear about how many thousands have taken up on this. But do we know out of our staff what the uptake was over the spring break for vaccination for our special education workers in congregated settings?
That is information that I wouldn't have, although I can look to senior administration if they have.
I don't know if Superintendent Pike could answer that at all, or would have that information even.
Hi, it's Superintendent Pike. I can speak to the number of letters that we provided to staff, which is called an eligibility letter. We were required to write a letter to each individual person so that they would be able to take that to the testing site. They'd have to call the number that was provided to us from the health unit, and they would be on a list, and then they could actually get their vaccination. I can't verify how many actually did it. I only can tell you the number of letters that we provided to our staff through two initiatives, actually, one through the complex special needs and other from early years. And the reason why we did early years was because we have congregated settings for grades 1 through 12, but we don't have them for GECDSB students with special education needs. So we opened that up. And so I can tell you that number if that is the will of the board.
I think we can ask that during trustee question period if there is that question from trustees. That does conclude my chair's report this evening. If there are any other questions for me, happy to take those.
Nothing in the chat, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. So I'll move forward to trustee question period. Do we have any questions from trustees for senior administration?
I have a question, Madam Chair.
Go ahead. Madam Chair, hang on one sec.
Sure.
It's trustee Chin, trustee Halberstadt, and then I'll get back to you after that.
Thank you. Trustee Chin, go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. And I have parents complaining to me that the sports ground in Massey is kind of bumping. I don't know how to say that. It's easy to fail when they run on the sports ground, when they run the circle, and it's bumping a lot and it's dangerous. And sometimes they fail and hurt the ankle and feet. So they ask if we can repair that running ground.
Through you, Madam Chair, is Director Kelly. I think what you're talking about is tracks. Am I? Or
yeah.
Fields. Yeah, we do have some tracks right now that probably do need some. I can think of a couple of places. We can, certainly within our costs, we have tracks that are expensive to repair. But if you have particular information or schools that you, perhaps you could send that an email to Superintendent Armstrong. Just don't know the specificity of what you're speaking to, but if you could send that along, that would be appreciated. Thank you, Trustee Chin.
And excuse me, it's just a general request is to repair the running trails and to make it safer. And is that possible? I don't know what you want me to send you.
Okay, so just in general tracks, Trustee Chin, is that what you're talking about? You're talking about tracks. You said trails, so I wasn't sure whether you're meaning tracks or trails, but yes, we probably do have some tracks that need repair, and so we'll bring that to attention. Tracks are extremely expensive to repair, I might add. So I'll certainly draw that to the attention of the facilities people. But I know we have a number of capital projects and repairs going on right now, so I'm not sure that will be top of the list, but we will certainly, and I'm sure Superintendent Armstrong is hearing the conversation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Trustee Halberstadt. Trustee Halberstadt, are you muted?
Oh, sorry. My question is in regard to the infrastructure funding that was announced, I guess, last week by the federal and the senior federal and provincial governments. We got 15.6 million in infrastructure money, which I think was the head of the class. And I know right before that, we had a presentation by Brianne Irish, and I think it's across the province of people saying we need improved ventilation in our schools given COVID. And I'm just wondering, do we have an idea of how much of that 15.6 million would be going into improvements and upgrades in ventilation? I guess there is supposed to be very fast that it has to be done. So is there a report on that? I think Trustee Sipkar, the head of Ops and Finance, told me today that there's going to be a report, but I wonder if you know now how much of that would be tied to ventilation improvements. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Chair, this is Superintendent Armstrong. You're correct. We will be bringing a presentation to the Operations and Finance Committee at our next meeting on May the 4th. That will discuss the projects in a little bit more detail. In terms of your question, I can give you some high dollar estimates. For ventilation renewal projects, we have approximately $2.5 million of that 15.6 is going towards that. And for the installation of new mechanical ventilation, we have approximately 8.9 million of that funding is directed towards that.
Thank you. So
Oh, I think you muted yourself again, Trustee Halberstadt.
we could be getting a little more detailed information in 2 weeks. I appreciate that.
All right, Madam Chair, Trustee Satori and Trustee Olmsted.
Thank you. Go ahead, Trustee Sartori.
Thank you. So my question is about some recent developments at Toronto District School Board around education development charges. And I know, Director Kelly, I had let you know that I was going to ask it at the Ops and Finance meeting a couple of weeks ago, but held off until tonight. So bear with me. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, obviously. So my questions will be kind of general. But so for the background, so TDSB is asking a divisional court to strike down certain rules that prevent them from collecting EDCs. Is my understanding. And basically, I'm wondering if this could apply to us now or in the future. So from my understanding, TDSB can't collect EDCs to help them with repairs and to build new schools because their board's total capacity, or any board's total capacity, can't be greater than the number of students that they have enrolled. So I guess I'm wondering if I'm, understanding that correctly. And then, what do we know about this case that they're bringing forward to a provincial divisional court, and what it could mean for us, if anything? I'm not sure who can answer that.
Thank you for the question. Yes, boards are treated differently with respect to EDCs, and I know that Superintendent Armstrong has some information to share on that.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to try anyway. Okay, so basically my understanding is the TDSB, they're challenging the Ontario government, specifically the legislation pertaining to the EDCs. And even more specifically, the section that says that school boards have to meet an eligibility trigger to qualify for the EDC. And what the TDSB is saying is it's a couple of things. First of all, they're saying that they shouldn't be punished in the sense of not being able to qualify for EDCs because of surplus space that they have in one part of the city, even though they might have growth in an entirely different part of the city. So they're challenging that. And they're also saying that the qualification criteria effectively prohibits them from being able to offer neighborhood walkable schools in their communities and that are growing, and they feel that that is unconstitutional. And they're also arguing as well through their lawyers that the moratorium on school closures prevents them from actually reducing space. So the mechanism for them to try and even qualify for an EDC isn't in place for them at all.
Right.
In terms of our board, there really isn't any implications to us because we already have EDCs in place. And even if we don't qualify through an enrollment capacity trigger, as long as we have a deficit in our EDC reserve funds, which we do because the amount we collect isn't enough for purchasing land in high growth areas, we would still be able to qualify for the EDCs. So from our perspective, there's no implication, but that's the argument that they are making. And whether they're successful or not, I don't know. It'll have to work its way through the courts.
Okay, and so supplemental? Just very basic as well. So there wouldn't be anything that that at this time that we would feel like we need to be proactive in, either in policies or anything like that, Shelley?
No, not that I'm aware of, and we have actually consulted with Watson and Associates who assist us through the EDC process. We've already chatted with them about this.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Madam Chair, are you still? Okay.
I am, yes.
All right, wasn't sure if you left yet. Okay, so now we have Trustee Olmsted and Student Trustee Sauvé.
Thank you. Go ahead, Trustee Olmsted.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. I've had a couple of individuals stop me on my daily walks. Many of the people in my neighborhood have opted for virtual education through our board this year. And being as we're nearing the end of the school year already, I'm not sure how that happened. They are wondering about what is going to happen next year. And I know in a perfect world, we would all be back in school face to face. But they're wondering, and I'm wondering, will we be offering virtual school next year in any kind of capacity, like the one we had this year with a actual virtual school, where kids have their own classes and teachers, and it's not just an online course, it's actually an online school like we have. So parents are already starting to worry about September, and as a parent, I'm worried as well. I hope that we're in a much better place than we are today. I hope vaccinations do their job, but just wondering, do we have any kind of commitment or guidance, or do we know when this might be clarified for families who are starting to already feel anxious about what next year might bring, and they just want some clarification or some guidance as to what they could possibly do?
Thank you very much, Trustee Olmsted. Through you, Madam Chair. We are still in the process of looking at those decisions. I would not have anticipated us being where we are right now. Also, the ministry has not been very clear to us around the funding for virtual schools, which poses a problem. Of course, our number one goal would be to have all students learning in person. That would be our number one goal. So again, with this evolving landscape, those are still under discussion. We recognize the value, as you indicated, that a virtual school has played, and certainly we have received feedback from both elementary and secondary parents and students about that. So again, all of that is being considered. Again, funding is a big part of this because, virtual school does come with a cost. And of course, our passion to believe that in-person learning is really the best way for most of our students to learn. So we will do our best to keep you posted. Again, we are at the mercy sometimes of hearing what the ministry is doing in lots of ways. And again, no idea of the GSN budgets at this point. But thank you for alerting us to the concern.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Student trustees, was it Student Trustee Suave?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. A student brought to my attention that pride flags are usually up for a week or less at their school during Pride Month, likely around Pride Day. Are there plans, or can there be consideration for schools to raise pride flags for the entirety of the month of June? Keeping the pride flag up for all of Pride Month is a really small act that promotes inclusivity at our schools and shows our support as a board and schools for the LGBTQ plus community and students. I think it'd be a great thing to see happen this June, and I was just wondering if this was a possibility or if it was already under consideration.
Thank you for the question. I'm going to refer that to Superintendent Pike, who has been looking after that area.
And thank you for the question. Yes, we do have, I don't know if it's a policy or it's a protocol that it was a board motion for sure, to have it in each of our schools for the week in June. And it's always falling at the beginning of the month of June. And so that is something that we do every year.
Can I ask a supplementary?
Go ahead.
So my question would just be, could we keep it up for all of June? I had a student ask me, and I think it would be just an easy thing to do if we could keep it up for all of Pride Month.
And if it's okay with you, Chairperson Hickinson, thank you for that consideration. I'll take it back to the committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we did, just for clarification's sake, we did, that was, Superintendent Pike noted, a board motion, and we do have a flag protocol, flag flying protocol that came along with that motion, and so that would be something to look into with Superintendent Pike as well, in that consideration. Any other questions from trustees? Oh, thank you.
Madam Chair, Trustee Burgess.
Go ahead, Trustee Burgess.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had a question previously at a meeting, and I could have taken it up at Business Arising, but has anything been suggested as far as what we're doing for graduations. And I ask this because there has been further questions from schools within our district, particularly about grade 8 graduation, not just high school graduation, and having some sort of acceptable social thing, whether it's under a tent and timed, pictures with masks or something other than just at their home and virtual. And these are coming from school councils and parent inquiries. So is there any news on the graduation front?
Superintendent Allwender is ready to speak on that, I think.
Oh, Superintendent Allwender, you are muted.
Okay, how's that?
That's better.
Yeah, sorry, out here in Tecumseh, Trustee Hazen, the internet connection is horrible right now. I don't know if there's feedback, but through you, Madam Chair, Trustee Burgess, good question. We've had a plan that changed. We had another plan that changed. We had another plan that changed. So we're at a point now where we're going to have to do the virtual. I've been in touch with the health unit through Superintendent Pike and Tim Lozon, our health and safety officer, quite frequently. And from as far as getting pictures taken to having the actual graduation. And so we're going to prepare for a virtual graduation, much like last year. It's not the answer we were all looking for, but it's basically what we can do now to make sure that we have something for certain in place for our students. We're hoping.
Superintendent Allwender, I don't want to interrupt you. Can you
come
turn
back
off?
After.
Can you turn off your camera so it prioritizes audio? It's really kind of skipping over, and I think people are probably very interested to hear this.
Okay. How's that? Is that better?
A little better, yes. Thank you.
Okay, so we're at a point where we want to have something in place for the students in case we don't know what it is right now. Our probably at this point in time, our best hope is if we can do some kind of a, in a way, parade where they can come get a picture. It's not the best thing, but it's the best we can do at this point. And it's also we have to follow the guidelines of the health unit, and basically that's where we are at this point in time.
Madam Chair, a supplemental, if I could, and I hope it's not too choppy. Because that was a little choppy. I think I heard it all, but I'm not sure I did. The other concern that has been raised is the awards, the consideration of what would generally be awards in each subject area, if you're or special accolades that normally would be accompanied by a plaque or a trophy or some sort of extra moment, usually on a stage. Do we have a plan, A, B, C, D, whatever one we're at, to accommodate those special, kudos to the kids who have achieved those awards? And if you could give some background, because there's a lot of questions and I have no answers of how that's determined when you have a community school, some of which over this last year, a student could have been in all three types of delivery: paper, in person, and virtual. How do we determine collectively for a community school those general kinds of awards?
Superintendent Allwender, any chance you are still with internet?
It's Director Kelly. I don't know if Superintendent Allwinder is still there, but I know there's certainly a plan that has been worked out to prioritize that. Superintendent Allwinder, are you still there? I barely hear you, Superintendent Allwinder.
I can leave that question, Madam Chair, and it can be returned. Just know that it's still on deck, as I'm sure it is in discussion. Thank you.
Certainly, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
No one else in the queue, Madam Chair.
I have a second question. I just didn't put it in there. I have one second question.
It is in our bylaws to only allow one question. Can that be sent by email? Oh, you're muted now. I'll send that by
Well,
email.
if it's in our bylaws, I can only ask one question. I won't ask about Earth Day and what we're doing. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I did have a question, and it's a kind of a follow-up to Trustee Burgess's question. I think where Superintendent Allwinder is trying to maybe get in. You can mute your mic. Sorry, guys, it's rough out here today.
Please record your name and then press pound.
Superintendent Allwinder, can you mute your
joining your meeting.
I think he's trying to join by. Thank you. My question was to the question posed by Trustee Burgess earlier. I'm wondering if Superintendent Pike can give us kind of an update on where we're at as far as being able to get our education workers vaccinated. The province did just open up the possibility for 40 and over to be vaccinated at pharmacies as well, and I'm wondering if that if letters have gone out for all of our education workers and where we may be at with vaccinations.
Thank you. Through you. We would not be providing any verification letters for our staff members if they are 40 years of age or over. They would go through the regular processes that are set up by the health unit in order to get themselves on the list. Or make the appointments. For us, we're taking direction, of course, from the health unit about specific categories of staff that are eligible to be vaccinated. For example, I just received an email stating that they are looking at the hotspots within Windsor-Essex and looking to see what staff we can do within the hotspots. And at this point, it is our early years. So we know that it's coming. We know that as they roll out the vaccinations, they are really looking to and paying attention to educators. And of course, we're all impatient. So we're encouraging everyone to look for other avenues, for example, the 40 and over, or going through your physician, or other ways to get vaccinated as quickly as possible and to use the Premier's expression of needle in arms. That's certainly what we want to do too, but we are held hostage to the number of vaccines that we do have in our area. But we are working very closely with our health unit to get as many as we can completed.
Thank you, Superintendent Pike. And just a quick clarification there. You said that we are we considered a hot spot, and then you'd made mention of early years. Is that coming down from the province as well? That early years educators in hotspot areas, and can you also clarify whether, and I know there was some discussion about this on our chair's call as well, about living in and working in a hotspot.
For sure, as much as I can. The hotspots are determined by postal code, and we've been provided with those particular postal codes for our staff who do work in those particular postal codes. Currently, they are just targeting early years staff. That would be staff that are working in the GECDSB in those particular hotspots. So we are taking a look at the teachers who do provide prep to our early years teachers, because we did put them on another list earlier. So now we're just waiting as they focus on the hot spots and working on the and the people who are working within the hot spots, when it becomes opened up, that we can get more and more staff, particularly vaccinated. Thank you.
I appreciate that, and also appreciate how complex and changing that is. So I thank you for that. Any other questions from?
Nothing else in the queue.
Thank you very much. So moving forward to notices of motion. Do we have any notices of motion for this evening?
Trustee Burgess was just commenting about the vaccinations.
Any notices of motion, trustees? Are we seeing none? Trustee Cook in the chat.
There's nothing there, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, so moving forward to announcements. Do trustees have any announcements? Excuse me. Any announcements from trustees?
Trustee Burgess has an announcement.
Go ahead, Trustee Burgess.
Madam Chair, I don't know if you have an announcement about any special days coming forward, and I don't want to steal any thunder. Okay. April 28th is, of course, the annual day of mourning for workers who have been injured or killed on the job. And we lower our flag at the board office and note that. Indeed, education workers have been injured and died on the job. And so we note that we're not exempt from that. I just wanted that noted. Same day, April 28th, is Administrative Professionals Day. And I would hope, Madam Chair, that you would make the announcement too. Administration this year, and certainly last year, but this year has been absolutely extraordinary. I asked the question of the director's report tonight because there haven't been any breaks. There haven't been any breaks. And a lot of these folks are in non-bargaining units, especially. A lot of them, some of them are, but I just want to say on April 28th, while we're observing both things, certainly, Madam Chair, you can take it from here. You know, it's what we think about all the administrators, everybody who makes things tick that aren't necessarily in the classroom, but who, all the secretaries, the clerks, all the administrators. What an extraordinary job it's been.
I will. I thank you, Trustee Burgess, for starting off on that, and I will. I'm going to take this moment to say I am in my other world. I am an administrative assistant, so I was thinking of it kind of in those terms. So I do appreciate you bringing it up here. And I'll relate with a story that today I got a call from the school about attendance, and it is, while we are all kind of adjusting to this new reality again of being online and having to adjust to being distant from our schools are still such hubs of family for us, and the people that do that work in those schools and further up the line to our own administrative building are really the hub in the spokes of those wheels, and we wouldn't be anywhere without all of those pieces coming together and adjusting so that we can adjust, and setting in place the solid ground upon which we can make those adjustments. I say we as a family whose students go to this board, and we as a board of trustees who are so appreciative of all the efforts that it takes. And a lot of it is kind of the blood, sweat, and tears, so that what a student and a family sees is smooth sailing. And that doesn't happen by accident, and it doesn't happen without a tremendous amount of effort and for what we do, a tremendous amount of heart, and knowing our families and our own communities as administrators. And I want to thank you very much as a parent, and as chair of the board, and as a board of trustees. I want to thank you very much for all that you do that we see, and all that you do that we don't see, that helps us get through these changes and these days that you're also adjusting to. So thank you very much for that.
Madam Chair, Trustee Olmsted has an announcement.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Trustee Olmsted.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to remind everyone that this week, April 18th to 24th, is the National Organ and Tissue Donation Awareness Week. In my day job, I work with sick children, and I work very closely with Canadian Blood Services, as many of our children require constant blood transfusion and blood products as a part of their treatment. And personally, my husband is in kidney failure and is in need of a kidney. So this week is a week to raise awareness about the critical need for donors across Ontario and the country. And it's a week to encourage Canadians to register your decision to donate your organs or make an appointment to donate blood. It is very safe and very controlled. And to talk to your loved ones about organ donation, because I can tell you personally, there's no words for what you feel in this particular situation. And I implore you, if you are able, please donate your organs. There's someone out there who needs another birthday and another holiday and another day with their loved ones. So just keep that in mind. It is this week. There's lots of posts about it. You can share, you can become educated, but I implore you personally to please become aware and to do your part to spread awareness. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that very heartfelt announcement. Any other announcements from trustees this evening?
Nothing else in the queue.
Thank you very much, Trustee Cook. There being no more business before us this evening, I will move to adjourn our meeting at 9:40 p.m. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Madam Chair.